Hello and welcome to this edition of EMS Now Up Close. I am Eric Miskell with EMS Now, and it's my pleasure today to speak again with Sal Sparacino, the Director of Sales with Zestron Americas. Zestron, of course, is the leading global provider of precision cleaning products and services and is currently operating in over 35 countries. Sal, it's good to see you again. Thanks for taking the time to join us today.
Well, thank you for the invite. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Listen, I wanted to talk to you today about your corporate sustainability objectives, or that whole initiative within the industry, and maybe start there, kind of start explaining maybe what's driving that within the industry these days.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I would say, if you look back in time a little bit, let's go back to the late 80s with Montreal Protocol, right? I mean, everybody knows about that in our industry because that was a major change, right? And I guess since then, a lot of our customers, be it the large OEMs in the electronics industry or the large CMs, let's say in the electronics industry, go to any of their websites and you'll invariably see their sustainability initiatives, right? And typically they revolve around a couple different things. It's always around people, operations, and innovation. And with regard to people, typically it's about well-being and safety and whatnot. And so as it pertains to Zestron, obviously we're making chemicals. And so we need to be sure that what we're supplying to the industry is safe to use and it's environmentally friendly, right? So I would say, there's this corporate push. And then, the government is also tied into this, right? Over recent years. And you can see that with the advent of what was called green screen. Looking at their definition, basically green screen can be used to identify chemicals of high concern and safer alternatives, right? So, and one of our R&D team has been intimately involved with the green screen initiative in terms of helping to develop or basically develop what those standards or what it requires to become green screen certified. So that's an overriding let's just call it view of what quote unquote safer chemicals could be and how they're defined. And then since then IPC has gotten involved as well. So IPC Works 1402 is also involved in developing a standard for green cleaners used in electronics manufacturing. And again, our R&D scientist, actually, he's a vice chair on that committee. So we're intimately involved with IPC as that gets developed. So yeah, so it's corporate, I'd say it's citizen, and certainly government's involved in pushing sustainability objectives.
Yeah, you mentioned two there, and I found them interesting: the green screen and of course the IPC work, 1402. Are those? I mean, it sounds like they're a little different, but yet working in concert. Is that right?
Yeah, I would say so. And I think green screen, you can look at it this way. It's probably more related to quote unquote worker safety. That seems to be, kind of a focus there. And, IPC 1402 is very specific for the electronics industry, right? So they're looking at chemicals, the efficacy of the chemicals and assuring that they're meeting the objectives that are set out by that committee as well. So they're complementary in a way.
Yeah, no, I'm getting that. Yeah, that's actually a good distinction because I was looking at that prior to this interview and trying to figure that out. So thank you. Now, and as far as the IPC 1402, my understanding is that it isn't approved yet, but we've gone through the public commentary piece here this month and hopefully by end of year. Is that right?
Yeah. As I understand it right now, it's out for draft for industrial review. So the draft is out there. They're soliciting comments. Yeah, and that'll go back to committee. And those comments, I guess, will be taken into consideration, and and it'll follow the IPC process from there. Okay. One of the things I should add, Eric, as I'm thinking about this, and because this plays into both of these initiatives, is what's called bio-based materials, and that's really a big thing here. And think of it this way, because when I talk to my R&D guys, I was asked them to help me understand what this means too. And bio-based materials are basically you can think of it as a new set of ingredients that are on the market today that we as a chemical provider or formulator can use that were not available 5-6 years ago. And what that means, so these are non-petroleum derived solvents, if you will. Think of it that way, right? And a lot of these solvents are actually identified under like IP, under these other types of certifications that are coming out. So what's happened is we as a chemical supplier or R&D scientists as formulators, they now have a whole host of materials to look at as raw ingredients that weren't available a number of years ago, and that actually will meet the requirements under green screen and potentially IPC 1402.
Okay. And are those the items that you refer to as low VOC and the pH neutral kind of pieces? Is that what we're talking about here?
Well, interesting you asked. So, yeah, so Zestron as a company, years ago, I'm going to say it was around 2010, 2011, we introduced the first pH neutral product in the marketplace for electronic defluxant, right? And what's interesting about pH neutral, I mean, it's pH neutral, it's non-alkaline, so it has some really some certain attributes just because of the pH neutrality of it. So it's more called user friendly, less not less toxic, let's say. You may not require neutralization if you're going to put it down the drain. Of course, you have to look at your individual EHS requirements, wherever you are. But pH neutral was a very big market innovation at the time. Now, since then, like I said, that came out in 2011 or thereabouts. With the advent of these bio-based materials and such, we've been able to further develop, let's say, that pH neutral formula, making the product more effective, more efficient, and so forth. And now it certainly comes under the green screen certification program. You mentioned low VOC. That's another very, very big initiative. I'm sure you're familiar with SCA QMD out in Southern California. The VOC, they have the strictest VOC requirement anywhere at 25 grams per liter. And for any chemical provider in the state of California, it's a very difficult measure to meet. However, going back to when I'm talking about these bio-based materials and such, there's new ingredients on the marketplace that allow us to meet that SCA QMD VOC limit with a product that has the same efficacy of, say, the alkaline products or even the pH neutral products that we were putting out, that we have been putting out, over years prior. And the interesting thing about those products, Eric, is since by definition, my low VOC, they're solvents that don't necessarily, I mean, they have a very low evaporation rate. Look at it that way. And as a user, let me put it this way: as if you're a CM or an OEM and you're producing electronic assemblies and you have to clean, one of the drivers of cost for cleaning is your use of chemical, right? And if you're using an inline cleaner or even a batch cleaner, there's what we refer to in the industry as drag out, right? So in other words, you have losses, and those losses can be either drag out where, because of the baskets and the geometry of the board and so forth, even though you have chem iso, it's very difficult to get 100% recovery from drag out. But you also have evaporative losses. And what's now with these low VOC products, that evaporative loss comes way down. So for argument's sake, if it were, 60, 40, let's say, drag out to evaporative loss, we're driving it, not to zero, but maybe it's going to be 70-30 or 80-20. So think about that. Not only does it reduce the cost to the user, but you're going to be putting less solvent into the atmosphere or less down the drain and so on. So ultimately, the whole process is better across the board.
Yeah. Now I get now, and that. So will all of the products with the green screen and the IPC with what these initiatives, will that apply to all of your products, or will there be some, and I'm thinking in terms of maybe particular sectors like aerospace that have different, environmental issues, or even the class of assembly? Will that have any impact on this, or will it be pretty much just across the board?
I think it's another good question, and I look at it this way. Let's just say you're a tier 1 CM, for example. I mean, typically you're going to be producing products for. You may do some military, you may do medical, you may do some class 2, commercial, let's say. So, and if you have a sustainability initiative, and you want to be able to speak to the fact that, hey, the chemicals I'm using are green screen certified as an example, it's going to be important to them. So our anticipation, put it that way, is
Mhm.
that as these new products roll out and as more of our, and I should say many of our existing products are also coming under green screen certification. You know, if we go to the website, you can look at that and you'll see a number of our products already there. So I would say I would expect to see this go across the board, not just say military or A&D, for example,
Mhm.
because it's, things like climate, we have climate change and, whatever, there's a
Right.
lot of things happening in the world today. They're not going to go away. And
Yeah.
so this environmental sensitivity it's basically here to stay.
Yeah. I mean, because it all comes down to performance and reliability of the end product, right? That's, or the boards that are being made. And I think, and I'm asking it because I think back to the lead-free movement, right? Well, it went lead-free, but it really didn't, right? Because there's some who wanted to hold on because they said, we don't know enough about these other compounds as much as we understand lead yet. So I'm trying to, is there any element of that involved here? Or?
Again, you're asking some very core questions here, and what I would say is anytime we introduce, call it a, if we introduce a new product, or if a company, if one of our customers is bringing on, just to say, a new cleaning agent, whether it's one of our existing ones or say one of the new ones that we're coming to market with, we still have to go under, the IPC J standard 001 Rev H. So there's qualification requirements and such, be it SIR, chromatography, longer term humidity test, and so on. So, and we as a company, before we bring anything to the market, we've done hundreds of hours of testing internally, between the various sites. A lot of our stuff gets evaluated either between Germany, United States, and Asia. So before we even go to a customer, we've got, much data in terms of those types of tests. And then, of course, you go into beta tests and so forth, and you generate real life, data from your customers.
Mhm.
But ultimately, it's those cleanliness assessment technologies that we have to use to make sure that what we're putting out there is going to be good for the long term.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. And and I often think, as I think about the initiatives going on in industries today, and obviously sustainability is well grounded, and the end goal is obviously one we all can subscribe to. Before I let you go, though, I want to give you a chance. Talk about the webinars that Zestron has been putting on for the industry. These are free webinars. You do them under, I believe, the Zestron Academy. We're glad to be promoting those monthly on our site where people can sign up and go and listen. Those have been around for a while, you had said. Tell me about that and kind of, what's on the agenda moving forward.
Yeah, no, again, I appreciate that question. Yeah, that's something we started, I think, in 2011 or 2012. And if you know a little bit about Zestron, we have a very deep engineering team here. When we look at our engineers, most of them are 12 to 15 years onward in terms of years in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
So in our building alone, it's nearly 100 years of engineering experience. Couple that with what we have in Germany and Malaysia and so forth. So there's a lot of experience here. And what we look at is there's a lot of younger people coming into the industry, hopefully, right? There's, we all know about the great tsunami. I mean, I'm part of it. Maybe you too. And so what we try to do is impart knowledge. Whether people are using our products or not, it doesn't matter. What we're interested in doing is sharing what we know, about the criticality of cleaning within our industry. I'm looking at our schedule. I mean, we have a variety of different topics. Our next one coming up is actually stencil underside wipe, and misprint cleaning. But we have them on, just basics like why clean PCB? Start with, from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Why should somebody even consider doing that? Jet printing, all, multiple thermal cycle cleaning and so forth. So there's a number of them. And yeah, it's our way to give back to the industry in a way that's hopefully that they find it very, very resourceful.
Yeah. And listen, I'll give you another little promotion too, because I like the blogs that you guys do. Those are very informative. And so anybody watching, I would certainly encourage, because I find those, we read them, we run them occasionally too, and because they're just rich and good information. So.
Yeah, and those are done in a way where, they're cursory a little bit. It's not meant to solve a whole problem, but to basically, essentially, spark something and say, oh yeah, I have that. And then just give us a call, send us a note or whatever, and, we'll get the team on it.
Mhm.
But I appreciate that. I'm glad that you're looking at them.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, we do. And Jennifer, our editor, she pulls it and says, "Oh, this is a good one. I'm going to run it." I said, "Go for it." Keep
All
Sal
right.
happy. So, right. So, um, Sal, thank you for your time today. This has been very, very informative. I appreciate it. I'm sure the audience appreciates it too. And hopefully we get a chance to get a catch up later in the year.
Well, hopefully I'll see you at SMTAI right over in October, November. So
Yeah,
maybe.
I'm playing between SMTAI and SMTA Guad right now, trying to figure it out because those are, I can't do them both. And so I need to choose one. So
Okay.
very
All
good.
right. I look forward to catching up with you in the field, Eric. And thank you for this time.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.